The voice of the people is the voice of God, said Jean-Jacques Rousseau, a Swiss philosopher, even though everybody thinks he's French. And he must have wrote that sometime before the French Revolution, since he died in 1776. French Revolution happened shortly afterwards, and all the peuple, the general public, chopped off all the heads of the royalty because they were so sick of royalty, which is part of the inspiration for the American Revolution, of course. Those of you who stayed awake in social studies class, the founding principle of America was no kings, no despots. The power of the people is the sovereign. The sovereignty of a nation comes from the people. Its power comes from the bottom up. So voice of people is the voice of God. Sometimes the people get a little out of hand and they turn into a mob, which is where Socrates was back in Athens, where and the Catholic Church in the 19th century, which you really want to trust everything to the people, want to give a vote to everybody. And so here we got the left saying, we got to protect our democracy, but let's take a look at it. Democracy in the United States says almost half of us want a king. We want an escape from freedom, as Eric Fromm once said. They want somebody to tell them what to do because they can't be bothered with government. And they're freaked out by the left who, like 10 minutes ago, if you were homosexual, it was the end of your political career, end of your showbiz career. That was for hundreds of years. This is the situation. Now all of a sudden we want to turn around. It's the left that's doing it. Now, obviously, this is where I say we need to have a merited hierarchy. So, yeah, we need a boss. Some of us are better than others with what we do with our lives and our capabilities and so forth, depending on the category that we're talking about. Now, we have a social order. What is implied by order is a hierarchy. We are social animals. We are nothing without each other. Am I correct? We need to have a social order in order to get along, which means we need to have leaders. We need to have the body, the collective body needs a head. It needs the superiors among us. And if you listen to Gaetano Mosca, there are no social orders that don't have a tiny elite that calls most of the shots. This is what the right is screaming about. Don't trust the peuple because the peuple are stupid, and we don't, no matter what side you're on as far as American politics is concerned, you can turn to the other side and say, see all these idiots? Unfortunately, there's big crowds, and big crowds need to have some order. So you need a hierarchy. Some of us, for example, are better about medicine than others. So you don't want to turn necessarily to the president for your, it'd be nice if he was clued into what's going on in medical science, but you have medical specialists saying, look, we've got this horrible infection, and wear masks and get your injections, and you'll be better off for it. We should trust doctors. Socrates said the same thing. If you're sick, you go to a doctor. If you need a tailor, you go to a tailor. You don't ask different people just because, oh, he's good at baseball, he should be able to do my heart surgery for me. That's not how it works. You need groups, and in the groups you need a merited hierarchy. Now, merited hierarchy means you don't go to the person who's just got the nuts, who's nuts enough to pull out a gun and aim it at your forehead and say, you do what I want to do. But there's these political fashions that arise. For example, Mussolini in Italy, the first fascist, used to be a socialist, and he got most of his stuff, a lot of his stuff from socialism. He got a lot of his stuff from a guy named Gabriele D'Annunzio. Gabriele D'Annunzio gave him all the straight arm salutes and the black shirts and all this. So the philosophical father of fascism. He was a rock star poet. He was a literary giant. He was enormously popular, and he was popular for romantic fictions, which basically were rape fantasies, which was the fashion at the time. Back at the time, women were into it. And this is why you say, whatever a collective person is up to, that's what an individual person can be up to. So depending on the fashion, we all want to go along with the crowd. The crowd at that time was a little bit like sexuality, was a little bit like bondage. If you're a woman, you want to have it taken from you. So this is terribly exciting, and it bred a certain amount of male behavior, which is classic now, of course, highly repulsive at this particular point in American history, at least among the demonstrative majority. And now that women have a certain amount of power and position, they can express what's really going on, and they're allowed to sort of know what they want. Back at the time of fascism, what they wanted was a strong man to force them to do what they didn't have the nerve to do on their own. So here we are in America. We have what Eric Fromm called escape from freedom. We have a good number of the population that want a strong man to force them to do what they otherwise would not have the courage to do. They want to go back in time. They're freaked out by things, for example, homosexuality. Doesn't matter that Turing saved the world from Nazism, because he was gay. He was a computer genius. He cracked the German code, but all he got for is, oh, you're gay? Well, then you're banished. And he may have been even imprisoned. This goes back in time. So now, presumably, we're enlightened, and we think, wow, this is great. We've got a breakthrough over here. But half of the nation is completely freaked out because this is new to them, and they're back with Gabriel D'Annunzio, which is, no, this is the way we like it. We like, tell us what to do, because we want to just enjoy ourselves and listen to music, and, hey, marijuana's legal, so everything's cool. It's all right. It's all right if we got a king. As long as we have our music and our dope, we're fine. So this is the problem that we're presented. So my vote is for, let's get in line. Let's learn to be obedient, but let's be obedient to merited hierarchies. Let's recognize that we have hierarchies. Let's recognize that some of us know better than others what's going on because they're specialists. So let's, willingly follow them. A whole big bunch of us doesn't want to be bothered, and they'd rather have a big boss. So when we scream about democracy and we scream about the American people and the American will, let's stop kidding ourselves and realize that, 50 million of us want a king. So I think we got to wake up to the fact that the Supreme Court is now a captive institution, that there are going to be elements of society, very wealthy, very powerful, very expert, very smart, billionaires, just insane amount of money, that are going to try to get their way. They're going to want to have their way. And unless we get in line and form a big crowd that can follow leadership, that's going to happen. And so as one big crowd beats another big crowd, so let's make the biggest crowd possible.